Well, thank you so much for having me on.
I appreciate it. Sasha, I'm going to save the intro for you because you do it better than I do for yourself. Quite literally the Wendy Rhodes of VC at this point in time. If you haven't watched Billions, I would highly recommend going to see it. But Sasha, give us an intro for the stream, yourself, background, and then we can get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, so my background is quite complicated, but I'll start with very short and brief. I was an ex-elite tennis player in the US, so played nationally, competitively, all the good things. Moved into psychology in my undergrad, did psychology, neuroscience, and religion. It was very much focused on this bridge between the science and the spirituality of learning about the human condition from all different angles, from the brain, from the body, and also from the consciousness perspective. Went to LSE for my grad school, moved over to London, did organizational psychology. I've always been very into people at work, especially the founder mindset. I was a founder myself, went through Techstars, and through that process realized that the founder isn't as supported in the process as they need to be, especially with the amount of pressure, with the amount of responsibility that they are having. And then have moved into both a VC role and now moving into a chief of staff at a family office, multifamily office, really building out this funding side around founder psychology, culture, talent, really building the people behind the businesses and the people in the teams to really, really support them in the best possible way so they can really actually succeed.
Sasha, let's get into it. I need to understand the founder psychology. Obviously, there is very much a tech bro culture when associated with tech.
Yes.
Why does that exist? And what do we need to do to change that?
This is a great question. The bottom line that there's been there's been a type of masculinity, if you will, not only around men, but just this type of personality that we've seen it on Wall Street before, The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, Gordon Gekko. We've seen this type of masculinity that has been purported and really seen as like the success. And we've seen that on Wall Street. And now we're seeing that also in VC. We've seen from the dot-com boom, from now the AI boom, these types of founders that are being touted as like the models. And unfortunately, that's, really aggressive, really not taking responsibility, lack of emotional intelligence, really focusing on the technical skills versus the people skills, not quite wanting to pay attention to what is going wrong and really looking at this is my way or the highway. So there is this pressure then also from VC to have returns. So it's not just that the founders are the problem. It's like the system has bred, and this is what I've been trying to figure out and unravel through conversations with VCs, through conversations with founders, is chicken or the egg. Is it that the system is being set up to really, want and milk these founders for these 10x returns? And is it that the type of founder that fits into that model has these characteristics that are very kind of hyper aggressive, that really are, I guess I'm going to use the word aggressive as like the best way to say it. Lack of consciousness, is really in it for the returns. So that's kind of what we're playing around with.
When you think about those individuals, you think about like a Travis from Uber as an example, like really, really aggressive in the way that he runs his business, but also one of the most incredible talents. Uber may have not been built without a character like him. Do you think it's important that you have someone at the helm like that for a period of time? Or do you believe you can build a company like that at that scale in that moment without those traits?
100% to your first point. I think you do need that. And I think this is where founder psychology plays a huge role of where are you on those scales. You use the big five, for example, as like that is just it's the easiest model. But everyone who's going to start a company is going to have high neuroticism. You need to have that. You need to be crazy to do this. It takes that certain type of personality. But where else are you on the openness, conscientiousness? That is going to dictate whether you're going to be a good kind of crazy or a bad kind of crazy. And then also having checks and balances, right? It's not just that one person is going to build this company. It's this person plus their entire team. It's the culture on that entire team. And I think that's what's the most important, is that person can be, a little bit crazy, but who is around them that's actually supporting them and also, acting as that check and balance.
The psychology of the mind when it comes to giving someone, like, for instance, in a pre-seed, £800,000 that may have never seen that amount of money in their life. What does that do to the mind? And do you think that you can sort of build an environment where they're able to perform without the fraud that might exist in VC?
Yeah, this is where I love to go on my high horse around the nervous system. And if you think about it, and I know we've talked about this before around the lottery, and I think it's around 85 to 90% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years.
It's insane.
And it's insane. And it's people, who may have been making 80,000 pounds, maybe 100,000 pounds, even less, their entire life. And all of a sudden they were handed 20, 50, $100 million or 100 million pounds. And just it's the change of relationships when you get that much money, of people now see you as somebody completely different. It's not a responsibility now. And I think where a lot of founders don't realize is that once you take money, you now have a boss and you now have to perform, and you now have someone, who is quote unquote like in charge. And so there's now that level of responsibility. There is just not seeing this amount of money ever before, and now not knowing what to do with it. It's like, here's 100 million pounds, or here's 5 million pounds, here's 3 million pounds. Go build something great, without the support of like, okay, what does this actually do to the identity of the person? So I think that is one of the most important things. We talked about this before around, I think it's unethical to give someone that amount of money without actually supporting their psychology and their nervous system, so they don't fizzle out and burn out because their quote unquote identity, who they are as a person, hasn't caught up to now the amount of responsibility that they have. It's like, if I would say this to people who have clients or people who have money, if $5 million were to come into your bank account now, what would that do to you? For so many people, it would send them into a fight or flight response. It would send them into, I don't know what to do with this anymore. I don't know what to do. People are going to look at you different. People out of the woodwork are going to be like, hey, like, saw you raise, saw you won this, like, would love to, meet up over dinner. Like, now you have all these people coming back into your life. Now you have pressure around salaries. You have people, relying on you when you've never had that responsibility before. And especially if you're in your 20s, like a 20-something-year-old founder, you now have people's salaries and livelihoods at risk. That is a lot of stress and pressure. And if you don't manage that correctly, that's honestly where so many people crash and burn.
What have we got to do then to make sure that it's ethical to give someone that large amount of money, and place a bet on themselves, knowing that, down the line, I actually want to return out of my investment?
I think one of the things that I've been kind of exploring and looking at is within the diligence process, right? You look at the company's runway, you also look at the founder's runway. So looking at how long that founder actually has capacity-wise before they reach that burnout stage. And so many founders, through the investment process, it's a long process. It's a stressful process. It is a painful process, and it's a very ego-bruising process. So throughout that time, by the end of it, they're honestly kind of burned out. Ask any founder after their fundraising, like, I just want to fuck off to a freaking island for like 5 months after this.
I don't know. So I've heard some like the show.
Depends on the person. Some people have higher thresholds. Some people are just naturally like, you're riding on that adrenaline and you're like, let's freaking go. And so I think it really honestly just depends. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we need to have a diligence process on the founder. So it's having those, weekly and monthly meetings with the founder to make sure that they're okay. They have the right support. They are taking care of themselves. They're actually eating, drink. It's the basics. It's the basics that we always forget, especially when we're in these high stress, high pressure areas of, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you actually moving your body? Are you working out? Are you, spending a little bit of time with friends, not going out and partying, but are you having meaningful conversations with loved ones? All of that is actually going to help keep the founder going for longer, even though, yes, there are periods of time where you have to put your head down and like get to work. So there is this little mix, but I think the diligence process really does have to look at, okay, where is the founder now? Where do they want to be? How can we support and facilitate that process? It's not perfect. It hasn't really been done. And so it's figuring out what that actually looks like and what...
And someone might make $1 billion on the show, $1 billion on the show. We never really know. I want to ask then, So is there a protocol that one must go through throughout that due diligence process? Is it just weekly, daily check-ins, or is there sort of a data set that you can build up over time that allows someone to really build a profile on that founder's mind?
I think there's a bit of both. One is like using psychometric testing is a really great tool just to understand the characteristic of the person and of the founder. So every psychometric test has its flaws, but having one that is, remote, that you can use and kind of just have as your test mark. If it's, the Big Five, if it's the Hogan, like there's so many different tests out there.
Break that down for me. Like what is the Big Five?
So the Big Five is looking at, there's five main characteristics. Let's see if I can remember them. There's neuroticism, openness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and I always forget the fifth. But there's these five characteristics. There's always one that you forget. And it's looking at, everyone has them, but it's looking at how high they are. And again, in different contexts, in different time periods of someone's life, they can change. So again, for founders, we're going to see high neuroticism pretty much mostly, but now what's going to matter is the agreeableness, the openness, and the conscientiousness. Are those also high? Are those middle? Are those low? If they're low, that's when we're going to have some problems with how the founder communicates, their ability to take feedback, again, my way or the highway, whether they are going to just completely reject any investor input, reject team input. They're going to be that dictatorial founder, if you will. Versus, again, if they're too high, then we're also going to have problems. So it's finding that really nice medium that founder psychology is still figuring out. And it's a very new field in the actual research that has been done. But there are starting to find the different levels of the traits, what we want to see, and how we can support those founders in that. And again, there's no one way. Humans are complex creatures, but it's taking it on ourselves and as both founders and investors to make sure that the asset that we are investing in, especially in pre-seed and seed, is going to be the most viable option. And like when you are investing in a pre-seed, you're investing to the operator, which is the person. So invest in the person and take time understanding the person and supporting that person in what they need.
Entrepreneurship isn't just a one and done type situation. It feels like a spiritual journey one goes on, and you sort of evolve as a human being, and like you might come out the other end a changed person. Was that very much the same for you after Techstars?
Yes, I would say, as we know, the entrepreneurship is the most spiritual journey you'll ever go on. It is the biggest personal development journey you'll ever go on. You will see all of your shadows, your flaws, your traumas, your your inner child, inner teenager. All of that is going to come up. Your fear of rejection, your fear of conflict, your fear of not being good enough, your fear of being seen, the visibility wounds. All of that starts to come up when you become a founder. For me, a lot of it was around being assertive and actually like not asking if this is right, but just knowing and trusting my gut. And that's something that I learned that a lot. That was like my biggest lesson from my founder journey, was like, I know I just need to do it and not ask every single person that I can find, is this the right choice? Should I do this? But just do it. And like, yes, have your trusted counsel, but it gets to a point where like, just get to work. And yeah, I think you have to be willing to meet your shadows. You have to be willing to be really honest with yourself every single day and look at, okay, how can I be better? How can I be better? How can I be better? What wounds am I coming up? Is it fear of visibility? Like you want to go viral, you want to, be seen by millions of people, but you're afraid of judgment. Okay, cool. What do you need to do to solve that? Where do those memories come from? How do you reparent yourself in a very non-woo-woo way, but in a very neuro-backed way, just to reparent yourself and to tell yourself you are safe to be seen. And if there is judgment, it's not going to affect you. It has nothing to do with you. But really building your own self-worth, really building your own self-confidence, your own self-trust. So all of this stuff that goes on externally doesn't really matter to you.
It feels like almost there needs to be a safe space that like founders can come together, whether that's within their own communities, like London Founder House, an example, the kind of unique and really tight knit supper clubs that get done in London and I'm sure across the world, where they can sort of have these moments of vulnerability because out there the shield's always on and the suit of armor is always on and they're sort of defending everything as they get into the business, whether that's funding fundraisers, whether that's employee hiring, etc., whether that's talking to the world about their product or just getting battered online for a horrible campaign.
Yeah, it's finding your community. It's finding people that you can count on. It's, even go so far as like hiring a coach, hiring like a founder coach, hiring a therapist, like having someone that is even external to the startup world is so helpful.
How do you describe it so it doesn't sound woo-woo and it doesn't sound like
I
this
know.
weird thing that we do and it's like I'm gonna go sit in Bali or India and like meditate for like 6 months by myself. Like, don't get me wrong, absolutely amazing if you ever get to try and do it, but not everyone has the time. So how do you frame it for them to say like, look, this isn't this weird thing that you do, this is reps for the mind, not just reps for the body.
Yeah, this is where I use my athletic background of even, yeah, from tennis background. Roger Federer had a coach until he retired. Maria Sharapova, Novak Djokovic still has a coach. Sinner has a coach. Alcaraz has a coach. So even these professionals at the top of their game still have coaches, and a lot of them are now bringing on psychological coaches. I really recommend anyone to look at Carlos Alcaraz's journey. And last year, he was psychologically unstable. He was really emotional and really kind of volatile. And now he is the most calm. He is the happiest. He's like, all that matters is that I'm a good person and that I show up and play my best and I can support my team, my family, and at the end of the day, make myself proud. And I think for founders as well, it's like, this is a very new field, right? And the amount of attention and the amount of money that is being thrown around right now is very new. And I'm saying not new as in, actually, I'll comment on that point later. It's new in the sense where you have people who are 17, you have people who are 20s, people 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, starting companies and either going straight out of university, building companies, dropping out of university, starting companies, out of high school, starting companies. You have people who've been in industry for 30 years, starting companies. You have this huge variety of people. Everyone has their own skill set and their own biases and what they're coming into the startup world with. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing is that you're not going to see your own blind spots. Bottom line, no matter how much self-reflection you're going to do, no matter how much like mirror work, journaling, affirmations, all of that, you're not going to see what you need to actually work on, and you're not going to have the accountability and that person looking in and holding you accountable. And I think this is where the founder first mindset gets diluted of like coddling. Like, oh, we support you. Here's, a napping pod. Here's, petting dogs. Here's like, take a break, take a holiday. No, founder first means that you're a team. You hold each other accountable. You are honest. You have good communication. And you are able to be like, okay, as a coach, quote unquote, from the VC, as that kind of manager person, I get to call you forward and like, hey, actually, like this isn't, we need to work on this. And having that mutual respect of like, we're all trying to get to the same goal. We all want to succeed. The investors want to make money. The founder either wants to make money, they want to, become a unicorn company. They want to build something that's legendary and that's a legacy building thing. Recognizing that everyone's on the same team. And therefore you need someone to kind of help spearhead that team from like that side perspective of like every athlete has a coach. Every founder should have a coach because your mental stability is the thing that is going to get that startup over the line.
Can I ask then, is being a founder and starting a company and sort of spearheading this thing that you make out of nothing into existence similar to being on a team, being on a basketball team, or more akin to tennis and golf where it's a single player sport? Because they require two different mindsets, right? Like one is I am competing to be the best in the world at any given moment, right? I think that's the beauty of golf and tennis. It's like on that day, No one can beat me. I think that's why everyone loves Tiger, because he did it for the longest period. He's the most winningest athlete ever. And then the flip side, you look at someone like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, is that they carried a team, or Kobe, they carried a team around them, and it was multiple parts that brought it together, and a leader within that.
I think it definitely is more of a team. I think this is where it gets interesting of it's an individual sport at first, and then moves into a team sport.
Right.
Where you're in that like beginning, like ideation, seed or pre-seed sort of range. Pre-revenue, I would say you're more on an individual sport. If anyone has other ideas, please let me know, because I would love to talk about this. I think it is a bit more of an individual. You have to make the decisions. You have to go. You have to put in the work to get this over the line. I think once you start making revenue, start hiring and building out a team, then it becomes a team sport. Then it becomes who is smarter than you in these areas? Who can you hire in? Who's a better guard? You know, who's a better shooter? Who's better at defense? And start looking at that team aspect. And this is, again, where psychology plays a really incredible role of hiring for those skill sets and also for those mindsets. You can have 5 executors on a team, that's actually going to be really damaging than having an executor, a strategist, a connector, an executioner. So having all these different types of people is what's going to set that startup, I think, bring them way ahead than just hiring based on like talent.
How do you think about like the movement to companies and startups hiring incredibly high agency individuals at scale up stage? Sorry, not startup stage, but scale up stage. And as they hire in talent, some of these talent have been founders previously. They've sold their companies, they've exited. I think 11 Labs is a great example of hiring in ex-founders or former founders and just stack talent. Do you think that blends to make a good team and the psychology of the collective entity is better for it? Or is it a situation that has to be managed very well throughout their interview process to realize, oh, hey, you're a good fit for us right now?
You have to manage it. Because if you think of founders, right, especially if they are exit founders or previous founders, they all have similar characteristics, right? They're all going to have really high agency. They're all going to want to do things their way. Mm-hmm. They're all going to be really intense, have really high work ethics. And so when you get all of those types of people in one room, if it's not managed correctly, it can become really like claustrophobic and can become almost like too intense and a little bubble that is ready to burst. And so hiring, yes, being an ex-founder is an incredible trait, but then also what are those soft skills? And this is, I think, where the soft skill, hard skill gets really, that conversation gets really funny. We all love the soft skills, but we never hire for them. We will always look at the person who has more experience, who has more expertise, who has a little bit more of a resume checker, because it feels like a safer bet. And I think when we look at the softer skills, that's where it does take more time. And I think we have to get comfortable with taking more time in processes. It's not going to be perfect. Some investment processes are very quick. I know Harry Stebbings did the 24-hour investment for 20 VC. And so there is a really intense, there's an intensity behind it. But where there is time, I think we can safeguard a lot of mistakes and downfalls and just really unfortunate investments.
It's very interesting, the founder psychology. Not always is it something that we get to dive into as deeply as today. Sasha, I'm looking forward to getting you back on again. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm feeling repeated segments that we come on and bring you on for, and you can dive into the founder mind. I feel like there's an opportunity here. Look, and just before you go, I think I've got to ask, is this vice versa? Do you think that VCs and individuals within the firms, the investors themselves, also need to go through this process?
Yes.
Oh, that was off the rip.
Investors also need this work because, again, like they're also under intense pressure. They also want to invest in unicorns. They want to, have these incredible potential 50x return investments. And with that pressure, with also the amount of just diligence work that is required, they also need to start building up this tenacity, I've been calling the 6-pack mind, of also knowing how to regulate themselves, knowing what to look for kind of underneath the script. Because I think right now with AI, with incredible tools where you can really structure your pitch, your deck, your script to fit what the investor wants. It's looking underneath the layers. It's really pulling back and really getting the founder, pardon my French, just to strip down of like, who are you at your core? What are your motivations? Do I actually want to work with you? How can we actually support you? What is a symbiotic relationship going to look like? Every founder is going to want something else, something different. And some might want a bit more not even hand holding, but a bit more support, a bit, more connections, more introductions, hiring help, marketing help, whatever that is from that fund. Some are like, I will see you at the board meeting, and I don't really want that much interaction. So from the VC front, it's really important to kind of start building and attuning to those characteristics and listening behind what's being said. Like if someone says that they're very direct and that they have a very direct way of communicating, okay, are you direct or are you very low on agreeableness? And in reality, you don't know how to change your tone, and people can perceive you as being really rude, aggressive, and a dick.
Completely
So
understand.
so starting to look at that and like that and that underlayer, and then for the founders as well, like starting to demand a little bit better from investors. And all I've heard from founders is like, yeah, the lack of support, and that needs to change. And I think from investors, there needs to be more communication between the two, one holding one to a high standard, one holding to the other to a high standard. And that's where that teamwork really comes in. Like, we're all on the same team. We all want to win. What does that actually look like? And I think rebuilding what the venture ecosystem looks like.
Sasha, I feel like you're one of one in the world right now. There are very few people that I've had this conversation with that are doing something so pivotal to the mind and not just the kind of financial entity of the ecosystem. I appreciate it. I think we'll all grow to appreciate it in time. I'm looking forward to having you on again, and I'll see you soon.
Let's do it. I'll see you soon. And yeah, please reach out with any more questions of people, because there's a lot to dissect and there's a lot to go through.
Where can they find you?
Case by case basis. I guess not my Instagram, my LinkedIn is just Sasha Cayward.
Love it.
I think on your post.
We've got it on the stream. On the stream going out live now. People, you can find her there. Sasha, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.